And we're live. Right, Colonel Sarpartap, sir.
Hi, how are you?
Doing very well. Good to see you.
Thank you.
So, I was going to start introducing you, but before that, we're very happy to have you here with us as we explore the world of equestrian sport. And yeah, to begin with, Colonel Sarpratap is the founder member of the International Tent Pegging Federation. Um, he is the vice president of the Indigenous Horse
Our
Society of India,
society.
the vice president of the Punjab Equestrian Association. And, the list is actually quite long, but also a show jumper and a tent pegger himself back in the day, back in his heydays, so as to say. And also, off late, Colonel has been training horses for show jumping and tent pegging, and he also happens to run his own riding club based out of Chandigarh. So, once again, welcome to Playwrights. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure being with you all.
The pleasure is all ours.
Yeah.
So should we start with? Would you like to? I see a horse at the back. She's. Is that a she or a he? And she's gone. Okay.
That's a she. She's one of my old endurance horses who's been doing endurance at Dunlod with a friend of mine called Mr. Bonnie Dunlod.
Okay, nice. I hope we get to see her again. She's sort of
Well,
vanished.
just keep coming in and off the screen.
Okay, so sir, what do you mean by equestrian sport? Let's start with a very basic. What is equestrian sport?
See, equestrian sport is a very big term. It basically involves all sports on horseback. But when we come down to the main term equestrian, it involves three basic disciplines which are Olympic disciplines. That is eventing, show jumping, and dressage. Then of late, we have two more disciplines called endurance and tent pegging, which are non-Olympic disciplines. But they are widely practiced in various countries all over the world.
Okay. So for somebody who's not very well versed with the sport as such, for the sake of clarity, what is eventing?
Eventing is a sport which originally was called the 3-day event. The sport was run first by doing a dressage test. Then you had roads and tracks, followed by a steeplechase, followed by another set of roads and tracks. Then you did a cross-country course over fixed obstacles, anything up to 4 kilometers in length, with about 24 to 26 obstacles. Thereafter, the next day, you did your show jumping. The sum total score of all the 3 days decided the winner.
Okay. So basically, when we talk about it being an Olympic sport, eventing includes dressage, includes show jumping, as well as cross country. These three make up eventing. Is that right?
Eventing. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, this sport originated actually from the military. You see, in olden days, horses and riders had to be trained to, perform in the art of warfare. At the same time, they had to be physically fit to cover long distances and go over various obstacles that they may encounter en route to the battlefield.
Right. Okay. That's why horse riding is in a way associated with the army, and of course back in the day with, again, the military and the army.
Military mostly.
Yeah. Okay. So
3-day eventing has also been called the military at one time. Right.
Okay.
See, most of your present day equestrian sports, they all originate from some form of warfare. In the good old days, when you didn't have the tanks, you didn't have the aeroplanes or various other means, the horse was your prime equipment,
Right.
right? And he was your companion.
Yeah. And your mode of
So how well
transportation.
trained your horse was and how good a companion he was is what saved your life in war.
And that is also seen in today's day and age where riding a horse has also become a hobby for a lot of people, and the connection that one while one is learning how to ride a horse and understanding how to be with a horse and on a horse. So yeah, it's well, the tradition continues, which is great to know. So which is something else which is really good here is that I don't know about a lot of our viewers here, but I was not personally aware of uh, the sport being so famous, being so popular. So yeah, it's great to learn from you, to get some insight from you. So yeah, so when you talk about um, when we talk about Olympics, is where else are these are this is the sport really played? Like, well, it's not played, but where else does it
See,
take place?
apart from the Olympics, we have an international body uh, for equestrian sports which monitors the sport all over the globe.
Okay,
Right?
okay,
The It's known as the FEI, the Federation Equestre International.
okay.
So they have their further subdivisions in various countries which are responsible for running the sport in their countries. You have a lot of championships all over the world. Right? FEI monitors these. They have their course designers to design the courses. They have their judges to judge the events.
Hmm.
So, and it is one of the old sports. It's not something which is very new as such.
Right.
Right?
But how come the awareness, according to you, like in your opinion, why is the awareness around the sport not that well known?
Well, you see, if we see the European world, well, a lot of people are aware, but
Hmm.
I'm talking specific to India.
Hmm.
In India, the sport has been sort of run, or the national federation has been run by the army all along. And as traditionally everywhere, the bulk of the riders always came from the military. But now we are in a phase of transition where a lot of civilians are getting involved in the sport.
Hmm.
People are learning the techniques of horsemanship. They are
Hmm.
coming forward to participate in various equestrian disciplines.
Hmm.
Of late, if you see, we had a civilian by the name of Ford Mirza who represented the country in the last Asian Games, and he won a silver medal.
Oh wow, that is great to hear. I was again like coming back to my original question: how come why are we not doing enough in India to popularize the sport, to make it more available or accessible to the general population?
No,
Uh,
see, the National Federation is doing its bit, right?
no, I'm
They
sure.
are having competitions in various states, right? But
Mhm,
ultimately, see, like racing, where we say money makes the mare go. On
mhm,
every sport, you need a good sponsor who can come forward, sponsor deserving candidates, help in with the training costs or cost of infrastructure. If we get into all this, I think we've come a long way in India too, where from the army we've got a lot of civilians coming in. A lot more riding clubs have opened up all over the country.
mhm.
I would say like any of the major cities, right, would be having at least one or two riding schools minimum, or maybe even more.
Okay, wow, that's good to hear. And of course, you'll be a better judge of seeing the difference between what it used to be and how far we've come. So, uh, so yeah. Okay, so moving on. Actually, or rather, going back. We spoke about tent pegging and we spoke about endurance, and you mentioned, well, eventing we've spoken about. Could you
Yeah.
give us an insight into what tent pegging is all about and what endurance, what does it entail? Because
See,
endurance is sorry.
okay, so we'll briefly touch upon endurance.
Okay.
Again, when we talk of endurance, it is a sport which has originated from a military discipline where, see, in the good old days, the cavalry regiments had to move to long distances overnight before they would launch an attack. So that means that if you have to cover anything about 80 to about 100 miles a night, you need a horse which is fit enough to undertake that journey. Right? He has to be trained to go over long distances in shorter times. At the same time, you've got to safeguard that he does not spend too much energy so that when the actual battle is fought, the horse has got nothing left with him.
Okay.
So the same form has now taken a form of sports where you're training horses to cover distances of anything up to 120 kilometers or 160 kilometers a night, and then you give a break of 8 to 9 hours, then you repeat the same cycle, so you're covering 240 kilometers over 2 days. So I'm sure that you need a fit and a good horse which is nicely bred to undertake such things.
Right. Right. And is that why it's not so well known these days? I mean, is that why it's not actually a part of the Olympics because it'll be very difficult to get it on logistically?
No, see, I'll tell you, when you talk about any Olympic disciplines, earlier on you didn't have too much media coverage, right? And you didn't have too many people coming in. There were sponsors were there to back you up. So things were there. But now with the media coming in, right, you need more visibility. And endurance, for one, is such an event that if you cannot possibly cover 80 kilometers till you're moving along on a vehicle or so, right? But yes, if you go to the Arab world, they've got it very well organized. They have a TV crew following the top few riders all throughout the rally. They, they cover your horse as to how a horse is being groomed, all right, recouped for the next phase of the endurance event. There is visibility coming up, but yes, the sport is not very popular in too many countries, I would say, to really come into the fold of the Olympics. It has found its way into the Asian Games more or less,
Mhm.
but I think over a period of time it will come into the Olympics, like all other sports.
Eventually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Now,
right.
now you want to get on to tent pegging as such?
Yes, please. Because tent pegging is
Mhm.
also your, well, in a way, it's also been your baby as far as it internationally, as far as it's
Right.
concerned
I'll
internationally.
take a little bit more time on this one
For
since I've been
sure.
involved with this. See,
All here.
tent pegging is also a sport which again originates from the army. If you see in the good old days when you did not have regular military regiments, right, you had native cavalries. Every king would have his own force of horsemen. So they would carry out attacks either early morning, right,
Mhm.
or just before sundown when the enemy is settling into his camp. So you would have a group of four riders coming in a sequence. Their job was to upstick the pegs of the tents. And when the tent would collapse, then the infantry or the foot soldiers could come and massacre the people which were caught unawares.
Mhm.
So now to prepare for this, every cavalry had its own form of training. See, if you're picking up a 10 pegging pitch, it's generally about, I would say, 4 centimeters in width.
Mhm.
You need a lot of practice,
Mhm.
especially if you're coming at good speed, because you do not want to be caught after lifting the peg, right?
Mhm.
So you got to lift the peg and you have to get away also.
Mhm.
So it needs two things: a lot of skill, and you need a good horse which can help you to pick up these pegs, right?
Mhm.
So
This is
that brought us to other forms of cavalry charges, like you talk about jousting, where two knights would generally take on one another in armor and get the other guy settled off. So we've modified these various forms of the ancient tent pegging to modern tent pegging,
Mhm.
and the concept of the international body really came in when four people met in Malaysia during the FEI annual general body. One was Mr. Feroz, who is the present president of the International Federation,
Okay.
a gentleman called Mr. Manoj Jalan, who is in Assam,
Okay.
General Sami, who was from Egypt, and the fourth was yours truly. We sat over, we discussed things, and then we made a little roadmap how to move forward. So, as part of that, there was an agreement signed between the Indian Federation and the Oman Federation to work together to promote this sport. I had
That's
gone
really
over to Oman to train their first set of 25 coaches and riders, which were to become ambassadors to further spread the sport to other countries.
that is huge.
Right?
That is huge. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what it is. We started with our first international in India,
Mhm.
where 17 countries got together and agreed to form the international body. Thereafter, we've been having various international events in India, in Oman, and various other countries. We've now gone up to a level of hosting World Cup events every 4 years for senior riders. We are working on women tent pegging. We're also working on young riders to get involved with the sport.
Okay, that is
Yeah.
huge. There's a lot that's happening in the
Right. There's a
world.
lot that's happening on this front.
Yeah.
Right.
And
But I'll
that's
tell
really
you the main players in this sport have been India, uh, South Africa,
hmm
Pakistan, Oman,
hmm
and you have Australia, you've got Great Britain, you've got France joining in. I mean, we've got almost to the tune of over 40 countries that have got in today. And it's not
40.
going to be very 40 countries
Wow.
involved.
hmm
And I think it's a matter of time before we knock the doors of the Olympic Council. Now, look, it's time you include us as one of your disciplines.
That was going to be my next question. I was like, what are the chances of, I was going to ask you what was the chances of tent pegging actually making it to to the Olympics, and how long do you think that could take? In, of course, again,
Well,
your opinion, but how long do you think?
it's not a question of how long, it's a question of mindsets. The
Yes.
moment somebody accepts it, it's there. If somebody doesn't accept it, then you got to work your way around to convince him that, look, this is a hot sport which is getting very popular, right? You're going to get good sponsors, you're going to get a lot of TV coverage because this does not involve too much area. Your whole track, you can organize this event in a sports stadium,
hmm
right?
Yeah. It
And
it can easily become a spectator sport. It doesn't have to
it
be
is as it is. See, with my experience all over the place, wherever I've organized events, it is the most spectator friendly sport. You just put a peg on the ground, get a couple of horsemen to perform, and you gradually find that people just sort of throng in to see what's going on,
hmm
right? I mean, I wish I had some videos to show you of events that were conducted at Muxar Fair or Fatehgarh Sahib, where the events were conducted and people just sort of came in on hearing that there's tent pegging event going on.
How exciting. And that's all that was required, just to put it out there that there is an event happening, and
Yeah.
people to show up. There is an event coming up in sometime next week around Chandigarh as well. Is that right? In
Yeah, we are actually organizing an event on the 7th of November at
Okay.
Chandigarh.
Uh-huh.
This is basically for our children and junior riders to qualify for the national championships. These
Right.
championships are going to be held in Delhi around Christmas.
Okay. So this is a precursor to the championship, right? I mean, this is what
Yes,
decides
it's a qualifier.
qualify. Okay.
It's basically a qualifier. You have to qualify to go and compete at the nationals.
Right. So is it open to all? Like, can one come be a part of it and
Yes,
be a
it's
spec?
open to anyone who wants to compete, to qualify.
Hmm.
It's open to public, but we cannot sort of violate the norms of the existing, health
COVID situation.
protocols at the moment.
Right.
So we are taking up precautions of safety distances, using sanitizers and what have you.
Right. Right. Hear you. Okay. So yeah. Great. Well, for those who are watching and who would like to be a part of this, of course, you have to follow all the norms. Sanitize and keep your distance. Uh, do let us know at Playwright Foundation, and I'll share we'll accordingly share the information with all of you. The venue, time, and everything. Colonel Sarpatap, there is this is a question that I've been wanting to. Well, I don't know if it's really a question, but there is general well um what there's a general misconception that horse racing and polo is a part of the equestrian sport, but according to you, I mean, according to how it is, it's actually not a part of it. What is the whole scene there? Why is it that people associate uh, polo and horse racing with uh, the
See,
sport?
polo is something totally different. It's a team sport, right? It's
Right,
played by four people, right? It makes a team. Whereas equestrian is mostly individualistic. It's one horse, his rider, his performance. Well, you can bring it into team sports later on when you start organizing team events. When you're talking about the Olympics, then it's more of a team event, but you also acknowledge individual players for their performance.
right. Okay.
That's the difference between polo and, right? In polo, you're taking it as one team against the other team. In our sport, we take one team against the other team, all right, but we also acknowledge the individual players. Like let's say there are 8 or 12 players.
Uh-huh.
Out of that, one player comes first. The second player may not necessarily be from the same team. He could be from the third team or the fourth team.
Okay.
You- Are you getting that?
Yeah, but I have a question. So, I mean, even when we look at other team sports, at the end of the day, the individual is also recognized, right? Like if we
Yeah.
take on some other team sports, for example. So how does that play out?
No, I didn't quite get your question when you're talking about.
Like for example, let's take badminton for example. Yeah,
Yeah,
like when you're playing for like let's say the Indian team. Yeah,
yeah.
and but when you win, it's not always like the Indian team, it's also the individual who played for the team who won, right? So similarly in like polo, which is a team sport, you have a team. uh just one individual can, I mean, they can also
No,
be.
See, in polo, one individual can influence the sport, no doubt,
Uh-huh.
right? But he
Uh-huh.
doesn't get an individual prize for that,
Okay.
right?
All right. Okay. There is
When
no.
it's a team prize, the team gets a prize,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Whereas here, the team gets the prize also, but the individual is given a placing overall.
Okay.
In polo, you don't give an individual placing, you only increase or decrease his handicap as per his performance.
I
And
see.
when you're relating it to badminton,
Mm-hmm.
see, even in badminton, you have individual events and you have team events,
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But in a team, you're not going to give individual placings,
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right.
right?
Yeah. We're on the same page now. Yes. Sir.
Right.
Okay. And what about horse racing? Because now, again, like that is usually an individual on a horse race.
See, it's an individual thing, all right? But racing is something which involves gambling or betting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anything which involves gambling or betting cannot really be a sport.
Hmm.
It's more of a professional setup then, right?
Hmm.
I'm
Except maybe,
playing,
uh,
pardon me?
except except maybe poker, because now poker is also now it's being recognized as a as
No.
a as a
See,
sport.
I we go to the extent of saying that you cannot really compare one sport with the other. Every sport has its own way of playing, all right? Now, I
Agreed.
cannot definitely correlate hockey with some other discipline. All right, it's got its own rules and regulations to play.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, equestrian has its own framework of rules.
Right.
You got to play your sport within those frameworks.
Right. Right. Fair. Very fair. Nice
Right?
response. Yes, sir. Yeah. Okay. All right. So moving on. Um. I'm waiting for questions. If anybody has any questions, please put them out there, and I'll address them to Colonel. So while we're waiting for the questions, I wanted to, since you are a part of the indigenous breeding of horses in India, what is it? What is it that you're really, your association is really doing to promote
See,
the breed? Yeah.
what we are trying to do is to promote the Indian breed of horses.
Mm-hmm.
If you see, after 1947,
Mm-hmm.
when the British left this country, they left a lot of thoroughbred horses in between,
Mm-hmm.
and our own breeds were sort of sidelined, or I would say they were just put away, that nobody really worried much about them.
Mm-hmm.
So you go back into history, in the year 1927, the Indian breeds, prominently the Sindhi, the Kathiawadi, and the Marwadi, were permitted to race in this country. All right, they were part of the stud book.
Okay.
But now it's been almost 70 years after independence, we
Mm-hmm.
still don't have any Indian breed racing. It's only the thoroughbred that races. So we're trying to bring our own breeds where they can race at par,
Uh-huh.
or like the Arab world, we should have our own, you see, races once a week so that we come to know what is the potential of our horses. We are encouraging people to get into endurance,
Mm-hmm.
right? There are certain people who are training horses for jumping and dressage,
Okay.
but those are all individual people. Our society is backing up such organizations that are keen to introduce these horses to sports. If you see the Indian breed of horses today, physically they are quite well off. They're
Yes.
matching in size and in beauty. But we've
Yes.
got to get them a cause for performance.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's what we are trying to do by our society.
Okay, that is, I wish you all the very best for that, because I do agree. I have been witness to seeing a lot of indigenous horses, uh, which are just gorgeous. Apart from that, also their size, and of course their just them as a whole are they're just beautiful. There's not much of a difference. It's actually, in fact, it's difficult to tell thoroughbred horse from an Indian breed.
Sorry, there's somebody's calling. See,
No.
if you see your Indian horses,
Uh-huh.
I think they're far more elegant and graceful looking, right? When you compare them to the thoroughbred.
I will second
But
that.
yes,
Yes.
our people are still caught up in the world of the Salihotra, where they've got to go beyond now and prove the worth of their horses.
Yes.
And that can only be done by way of sport. You're not going to be fighting wars anymore on these horses, right? Well,
Right.
they had proven themselves in the wars, no doubt. But now you got to prove them on the sports field.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess over a period of time, our people will come in once we teach our horse breeders, our owners, how to train our horses properly.
Mm-hmm.
They will show some results in days to come.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And kudos
I
to
mean,
your
you
whole.
have been at the stables and you've seen our only Marwadi stallion.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen him jumping, you've seen him doing dressage.
Mm-hmm.
And shortly, I think we will be entering him in national championships to prove his worth.
Yes. Hopefully, very soon is when one gets to see him. See him at that
There's no
level.
sound, sorry.
Uh,
I can't hear you.
there's no sound to me. Okay. Why don't you okay.
Raagini, there's no sound.
Is it okay now? Is it better now? No? No. No. Now? No? Give me a moment.
I think we'll have to call it off. I can't hear your questions, Raagini.
No, just a moment. Give me a moment. Give me a moment.
There's no sound on the phone.
Now, is it better now? Is it better now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
No?
Hello.
So you can try joining in again once.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello. There's no sound.
Yes. Is it better now? I think I'm just gonna stop my camera and bring it back on again. Just stay there. Just stay there. Am I back on now? No. No. Can you hear me now? Oh no. He's gone. Hello, team playwright. Can I get some assistance, please? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. He will be joining in soon again. I gave him a call and he'll be joining soon.
Great. Thank you, Anshuman. Thanks. We'll be back in a couple of seconds. I can't really. Of course, this conversation is between just me and the speaker at the moment. But it would be great if anybody who's watching if you have any questions, if you could just send them across. Where? So they're not showing up. Okay, there are questions. Okay, welcome back, sir. Oh, okay. Okay. Can we start our own 10 pegging competition? Okay, welcome back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we okay? Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, you can hear me now? Am I clear?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. So, starting from where we left off, I was saying I really hope to see the stallion that you're talking about at a competitive level very, very soon. And I have no doubt that he is going to make it really big. So all the best for that.
Thank you.
And I also wanted to just mention.
You're going off. You're going off the air again.
I think it's your phone. I think you'll have to put your phone on.
Hello.
Is it okay
Hello,
now?
Rohit.
Hi, sir. Hello.
Sir, you're talking. I think you've picked up your call. You've taken your call?
Hello again. Are we
Again?
having disturbances in the network?
Okay. No, I think we'll have to put your phone on airplane mode so that people can't call you while we're in conversation with each other.
Can I get back to you in 5 minutes?
Okay, sure. All right.
I can't. I
All
mean, there's an audio problem.
Okay, all right. I'm going to wait for you here. I'm going to keep the audience entertained somehow.
I'll
I
get
don't
back
know
to
how-
you. There's an audio problem.
Great. Okay. All right. Great. Okay. So we'll be back. Just give us a couple of moments. Sorry for that inconvenience. There are a couple of questions that have shown up now, so I will be asking those. I will be putting them forth once Colonel's back. What?
Hi, Raagini. Sorry, somebody's got a emergency with his mare. It was a doctor calling.
Don't worry about it, sir. It's as long as you're back, because we have a lot to talk about still. Don't worry about it. It's absolutely fine. I hope it's sorted out though.
Yeah, it's sorted out. It's sorted out.
Okay.
It was a doctor.
All right, great. What I was saying was, everything that your association is doing for the Indian breed, for the Indian breeds, I'm sure a lot of people. Well, actually, I can't speak on behalf of other people, but really kudos to all of you. I would like to mention that it's very heartening to hear that you are that we are moving beyond that mindset that it's just that thoroughbreds are a certain breed, and then ignoring our own. So all the best to all of you. And
Thank you.
okay, I would really. There are a few questions. A couple of questions, and then we'll go
All
back
right.
to speaking about you a little bit. So one question is, so Nippy Ghai here is asking, what is the caliber of Anandpur Sahib tent pegging on Hola Mohalla?
See, it's a major festival, and the Hola Mala is basically nothing but an old traditional way of celebrating the art of warfare.
Mm-hmm,
So all the Nihangs,
mm-hmm,
wherever they are, they all congregate at Anandpur Sahib
mm-hmm,
on Hola Mala,
mm-hmm.
and then they carry out mock fights between the groups just to rehearse the art of warfare. And in between, then they have these competitions where various groups compete against one another.
Okay, all right.
And
It is
if you see, Hola Malla is also associated with the creation of the Khalsa Panth from the Sikhs.
right. Yes, that's right. It is beautiful to watch them in action. It is uh, the stealth and the skill while they're practicing the art of warfare is uh, it's quite a treat to the eyes. So what you're saying is that they have basically they've added tent pegging uh, to the whole.
No, 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 no. See, they have not added tent pegging. Tent pegging existed with the old art of warfare when the Nihangs. See, the Nihang Sikhs were people which were basically, I would say, from the farmers' class or the locals that got together to fight for a cause.
Mhm.
And then they trained in tent pegging and other martial arts.
Mhm.
So, tent pegging was also one of the forms of martial arts on horseback. It was basically the use of your spear to
Mhm.
upstick pegs, all right, or take on an enemy while mounted. Similarly, you also fought with swords. So if you see the modern tent pegging, it has a discipline which is done even with the sword. It's the lance and the sword,
Oh,
the two
okay.
weapons which a cavalryman always carried on person.
Uh-huh.
Right? There is another version to that. As
Mhm.
things improved, the rifle came in. Then the cavalryman also used a rifle.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
if you see, we have a discipline called skill at arms, where you use your lance, you use the sword, and you use a pistol also.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot of information. Okay.
Right.
All right. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for uh, your insight on that. There's one more question by Bonnie. Can we start our own tent pegging competition for tent pegging at the all India level?
Well,
Can
there
we?
is nothing stopping us from doing an all India tent pegging championship with indigenous breeds.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm. Yes.
I know Bonnie Dunlod is also working on trying to create an all ladies tent pegging team.
All the best to you. More power to you, Bonnie. If you're still here, if you're still watching, more power to you. Look forward to the results of that. Hopefully soon again. Hopefully soon. Yeah. Okay. So moving on. Colonel sir, can you tell us how did you get involved with well,
With the
sport is
sport.
one thing. Yeah, well, sport is
Well,
one thing, but how do you just get involved? How do you get involved with the
see,
sport?
I basically come from a traditional military family.
Okay.
My grandparents were all part of the good old, I would say, the British Indian Army, right?
Okay.
They were
Okay.
from the cavalry regiments.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Before that, my ancestors were part of Maharaja Ranjit Singh's forces.
Okay.
So we had about 500 horses at home in our own setup.
500.
Gradually down the line, my father himself was a very well-known horseman in the country, being an army officer. He would do show jumping and tent pegging.
Okay.
And as a child, I picked up my things from my parents and my grandparents whenever I would go home on my holidays.
Mm-hmm.
I developed a passion and a liking for horses,
Mm-hmm.
which I continued in my career as a military officer. And after my retirement, I got involved full time when I started keeping my own horses and training children to participate in various equestrian sports.
Okay. And
That-
we've come really, yeah.
All right. I have an older brother who's well known in the polo circles. He used to
Okay.
play polo in his days.
Okay. All right. Oh, that's so it's basically it runs in the family and it also runs in the blood, and it's being passed on. The traditions being passed on from generation
And
to generation. Great, great, very, very good. So, according to you, what, where do you think the sport is headed? Not just in India but also internationally. Which direction do you think the sport's going in?
well, the sport is developing. There are more and more people getting involved. All right. And see, with everything that has to move forward, you can't stick on in times immemorial. You have to bend your rules, frame new rules to meet the new environment. With that, the sport will continue. And horses have been known to be with human beings ever since ages. They say the dog may be the man's best friend, but it's on horseback that history was written.
Beautiful. So true. That's very true. That's. Can you share some more of these anecdotes with us? Maybe. It's
And
yeah. Why not?
see, there's so many incidences where the horse has proved himself to be your best friend. The incidents when various people got hurt during war, the horses were the ones that carried them home safe and sound.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You can take the case of Maharana Pratap in India and his famous horse Chetak,
Okay.
right? And you can take the love of Maharaja Ranjit Singh for his horses
Mm-hmm.
when he fought a war, spent a whole pile of money to get one particular horse called Aspe Lela, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I
Wow.
mean, there are a lot of incidences, of man's relationship with his horses.
Something I've noticed when one falls off a horse, um, um, the horses make sure that they don't step on the rider. Which is it instinct or is it, there could be an accident, but mostly in most of the cases, they somehow miss the fallen rider, and is it just, it's what is it?
No, see, put it that way, that firstly, horses are not there to harm you. And the
Right.
other thing, what I always believe, that the horse is a little bit more intelligent than the man riding it.
Yes.
So the horse will never intentionally step on his rider as such.
Of course, accidents happen, but
If you see that, at times you find people in the training area, they fall off the horses. The horses will just take a run, come back and stand next to the rider to get on back again.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. I hear you. Okay. So is there something else you would like to talk about that we could have missed out, since I don't have any more questions?
See, it's a very wide field. We can go on for hours together.
That's true. No,
But,
that's true. I have
but
a lot of questions to ask, but I know that will be dwelling into a different, into a separate area. So we will continue this conversation. However, when we have our annual playwright event, which happens once a year, hopefully we had it in 2020 last. We'll have it in March, in Feb 2020. We are hoping things go fine, and we'll be having it in Feb or March 2021. And we'd love to have you come on as a speaker again. We will touch upon topics that have not been touched upon, because of course there's just so much to talk about. So yeah, it's been wonderful to have you here, and thank you for joining our platform, joining us on our platform today, and for sharing a lot of information. So yeah, do you think we can sign off by saying that the popularity of equestrian sport is increasing? Do you think it's safe to say that?
It's very safe to say that. And if you see it, facts around in our own country with the number of riding clubs that are coming up all over, I think the sport is in safe hands,
Yes.
and it will definitely grow. With more and more people becoming aware of horses, and trying to get involved in how to look after horses, not only riding part,
Right.
it definitely has a future.
Yes, grooming as well. I mean, there's just
Yeah.
so many topics that we still haven't
So
touched upon.
there are so many aspects to being with horses,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a very vast field, and if anybody says that he's mastered it, well, I have my doubts, because I still feel that even being with horses ever since I was a 5-year-old child to this age, there's still a lot to learn for me.
Yes. And we're talking about how many decades approximately?
Well,
You being with horses
yeah.
in general?
See, all I remember, I was a small little child when my mother used to ride. She would put me in front on the saddle. It started from there. So now I'm almost 65 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
My mother, she's 95. Given an opportunity, she still rides. She
Right.
rode on her 95th birthday.
Wow, that's called passion. That's called
Right.
real love for well, horses, and then the love for riding them, and whether it's whether it's in a sports setup, or whether it's just for your own inner satisfaction. So yeah, great.
I would just sign off by saying you need to love the horse to love the sport.
Beautiful. Thank you so
You
much.
need to love the horse to love the sport.
Thank you for sharing that as well. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you here with us, sir.
Thank you. My pleasure, and all the best to you all for all
the
your
best.
future endeavors.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.